Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I wanted to talk to you about how the narcissist can steal your identity, but along the lines of your spiritual identity. So let's jump in. So when you're with a narcissist and when you meet them, they start to get what they say, they get tuned up to you through the trauma bond and everything. And what they do is when they court in, latch up and hook into you, they get on your wavelength, your vibration. So if theirs is down here, or if they're impersonating somebody and wearing somebody else's energy, they may be up here with you. That's normally how you meet them, with them to have stolen somebody else's energy. That can't last that long, you know, being on that level. Or if they're a little lower than you, even with that energy, what they do is they'll court up into you, they'll hook in, and then they're going to pull you down to wherever they are. Or, you know, kind of like how everything gets homeostatic. Homeostasis will occur between the two energies, but they're going to be locked into you now. And they do that by mirroring yourself back to you. A lot of times it's almost like, well, if I mirror the same energy back, what you like, I like, it's almost like now we become one, because we're almost like one person. You see, we're two people. But you gotta understand also, the narcissist doesn't have an identity, because they sacrifice their true self for the false self. That's why they always need supply, because supply is where they get their identity from. That's why if a narcissist goes into an injury, into a collapse, and they lose all their sources of supply, for the longest time, they really won't know what to do. That's when they start fiending for supply and they start flipping out, because they don't know how to act appropriate, because they're not being, they're acting, they're impersonating, but they don't have the energy to do it. So they're doing it with their fuel, which is no fuel, very, very little, low vibrational fuel under that 199. See, what elevates them above the 199 on the vibrational chart is always stolen energy, stolen fuel, and fuel that they switch with people at different places. It could be on the phone, it could be at the bank, it could be at Starbucks, you know, when they smart off the people and take their energy, anything, get validation from people, or use people and abuse people, get people to react and give up their energy, to guilt trip them into giving up their energy, to do sadistic things on them, to abuse them, to cheat on them, to dupe them. All of this stuff gives them energy. That's what is called supply. And when they go through a collapse, they lose it all, and they end up becoming kind of like in a hermit mode. You know, they'll be trying to stay away from people. They don't want people to see them, but they do have to build that pipeline back up, just like somebody in sales would. You got to get your harem, you know, grown back up. So you know, eventually they will get into a humble state and try to keep things together at some point enough, because they'll start getting gray and ashen if they don't get supply, and they'll have to start trying to conduct themselves as that dark energy is now eating them up. And you know, they may have some glimpses of remorse, and definitely things like that will start to hit them, because they'll be forced to look at themselves. But the problem with the narcissist is they don't change or make any good permanent change. It's like a rubber band, and at some point, as it stretches out, it's going to collapse again, and it's going to go back to the same old thing. There's going to come a point to where they'll get some sort of enough supply to where they're going to feel healthy enough to where they can be pompous again. That's kind of how it works. And then they become arrogant again. And then they feel, again, that old spirit of them starts to come back when they feel like they're back on top. They can never stay humble. The type of supply they have and the amount of supply and power and control they have and abuse they can give will always determine the narcissist arrogance and that level of arrogance they will be at. And that is the real reason why they'll say there's a spectrum. Now there's a spectrum, but it's not necessarily like somebody might have sacrificed their soul or their true self, and then this person didn't, or this person has, you know, more entities than the other one, or doesn't have any. Like, when this narcissist doesn't have any dark energy that's controlling them, and this person has a whole bunch. It's more or less like what type of supply and how much of it they can get. It's kind of like if a rich man or a man that's persuasive, that has charm, can get more people to do things for them than others. But this is the thing, it's not even that. It's your motivation. You know, because you could have a rich man that likes to stay home and read books, you know, or I'm saying if they were both narcissists, it's kind of like, it just depends on what their expectations are for what they need to have to conquer life and be a god. You know, so there's on that aspect, they would be similar to different people having different opinions of what life is all about. Different narcissists have different opinions of what life is all about as well. And that's where I think you get the spectrum from. Some are not into elevating to a more powerful stature and level. Maybe they are, but they don't want to have to run around town to keep that kind of supply up. And some do. So it would be looked at as this one's on a lesser part of the spectrum, and this one's more into destroying the whole world. So they're at a higher spectrum. They need more supply to do that. But when they become you, it's kind of like when you're pouring your heart out when you're dating them. They steal first they hijack your emotional field, and that's where they start to control you. So when they come in, you may be a person that typically thinks from your higher self, your spirit man. But when you accept to go in a contract or a covenant or consent with a narcissist, they are going to, an unawoke empath or somewhat unawoke, they are going to charm you and convince you and work you through some sort of, I call it witchcraft, so you can call it what you want, but when you're dealing with dark energy, whether they know it or not, they are some sort of a practitioner. All of them would be, because manipulation and deception is witchcraft, and they're always lying and manipulating and deceiving, using and abusing. So what they do is they pull you down from your spirit man to your ego self by telling you how great you are and how well you should have been treated, and they're here to do that as your hero. That's how it starts in the beginning. They come in as a victim and tell you how great you are, and that pulls you into your ego state. It sounds good, and maybe it's true. Maybe you should have been treated better. You're a scapegoat in your family, and they know that. You've been blamed for everything or treated the poorest in your family, so they know that that's going to work on you, because you don't typically have people saying those things to you. You've always had to grind it out. And when you do hear a lot of that, like an overindulgence of it, it kind of gets you into your ego state, especially when you really like the idea of this individual. And they're really giving you this all acceptance. Like, it doesn't matter what you do in love bomb phase. This is all in love bomb phase. It doesn't matter what you do in love bomb phase. They're all acceptance of you. And most people in regular humanity relationships, it's kind of like, if you tell somebody on the first month of dating them certain things, they may run away because that's not what they're looking for, or they don't agree with you. But with the narcissist, it's different. They will accept everything. And so because of that, you feel that all acceptance, and it gets you to love them more. It gets you to open up quicker. You see, they have a mask, and they can't fuel that mask forever. It runs out of energy, and they're going to suck off of you, but you're going to run out of energy at some point as well. And especially if you're like a primary source supply and they really want to nail you down, well, they got to marry you or get you intertwined in finances, children, or housing, or some kind of things, and get you convinced that they're your twin flame or whatever. And within a short period of time, because they can't fake it forever. And in the very beginning, they're going through infatuation of getting to know you, and that's very fun for them. So there's a little bit more time. That's why the first cycle, they can act nice longer than any other cycle, because they're infatuating, going through a fresh new stage with you, and you don't know them yet. So you're giving them a lot of freedom as you're learning them. After cycle 3, 4, or 5, you know they're a liar. You're starting to not trust them, and you're giving them a harder time. But in the very beginning, the microscope is not really on them. It's more of a macroscope. And you're just happy to be with them, and they're pulling you down to ego, and you're like, yeah, I should have been treated better. I was mistreated and all my life. And you probably had a couple of narcissists before this one, but you didn't know what the title was. You didn't know that they had you had to start looking for it through, probably through the trauma. You start Googling. That's how I found it. And when you do that, when you don't know, they pull you down in your ego state, out of your spirit man, and that's your emotional state. That's your state, and you get you're emotional. You're emotionally unbalanced. And they get you in emotional unbalance. First, they love you to death. They data mine you, and then they find out how they can trick you, and through that information, how they can manipulate you, get you off kilter, like a chair with 3 legs. That's what they start to do. That's how they start to hijack you. Then you feel like they're treating you so well, you want to give them equal reciprocity, so you start to love them back in the way that they're loving you. But that's really them training you on how they want to be treated. Because in the very beginning in Love Bomb, they're really worshiping you. And then, like I said, when you want to give them that equal, and they're serving you and maybe buying you things, and then you start to do all that too. Give them all inclusive, all acceptance to them. You give them all of your fuel because you feel like they're pouring out to you. You tell them everything, you trust them, you love them, and you start to serve them and worship them because that's what they're already doing to you. Then they start to become a tyrant, and the hot and cold starts. That's where now you're emotionally off center. In fact, you're emotionally off when you're worshiping each other in the Love Bomb phase. They're doing it out of infatuation. A lot of times the narcissist doesn't even know they're dealing with dark energy, or they know they're different, but I don't know if they know to what extent. And the dark energy has taught them to always look outside and to blame everything from the outside, that they're never wrong. So they never look inside, they never introspect, and they never reflect on themselves. And they're always out to blame somebody else, and then to accuse and harass other people because it's their fault. So the dark energy is camouflaged inside them and never gets them to look in and to never have truth, because they're just a lie, because they don't have a true self. When you become a false self, you are a complete lie. But they are convinced that everybody is doing this in a lot of times. And when people act truthful and healthy around them, they just won't engage with them. They wouldn't engage with people like that. That's why, generally speaking, they get another narcissist as partners. And when they get that type of primary supply source, that's why they want to nail you down so quick, because it's not common for that energy to come across somebody like you. They usually say it's because you've gone through some kind of bereavement to get that low, and you're in a depressed state, and you lost some people, and you got a divorce or something that brought you down to a narc vibration. And then you were also an empath that grew up in that family, so you were always also have been on that level before when you were a child and stuff. And that's usually how they find you. They nail you down quick, and then the mask comes off. They do the hot and cold to get you trauma bonded with they hit you with the stick, and then they love you a little bit and give you a carrot, and then they hit you with the stick, and then they give you a carrot again. You don't know what to do. You start ruminating. They're lying to you all the time, and then they start to go back to more of those evil ways that they were doing before you. They're always evil, but that infatuation leaves, and the trust that you have for them starts to leave, and it starts to become more annoying for them. They also get bored, and then they also have other supply sources that they need to meet up with because they got to keep their harem full. And to do that, you got to get with them. But what they do is during that hot and cold phases, they start to get you to accept things and guilt trip you into accepting things. And as you're pouring your heart out, doing reactive abuse and trying to convince them you're somebody different than who they're thinking you are, you're pouring your heart out. And what that's doing is emptying you of your fuel, and they're taking your fuel, and then they're projecting onto you all of the things that they are and all the evil works that they have done, either when they're not with you or in the past or whatever. But they're always convinced, they're starting to convince you now, because now they're wearing half your fuel, or at least 3/4 of it, and you're wearing a lot of theirs because they've been dumping into you. And then intercourse, they dump into you as well. They're just, your walls are completely down during intercourse. And so they start convincing you of this framework and this character and this emotional field that you're wearing now, that you are who they are. You see? And then when they get you to pour all your fuel out, those last drops of your energetic fuel, see, at the top, it's kind of like they start by like lies, and then it turns into some sort of maltreatment. is like the middle layer of your emotional field. If it was a cup of water, it would be, if it was like dirty water, it would be lighter at the top. That's like, you lied to me. And then the second part of the cup's a little dirtier, it's got more nutrients in it. That's your emotional field, and it's kind of got more nutrients the lower you get. And that second part is kind of like, you know, you did some maltreatment to me that hurt worse than just a lie. But then the bottom part's got all the sediment in it, all the dirt. You know, like if you were to mix it up, it would all be the same color. But in this case, you didn't mix it up, so it's just settling at different levels. That part is like the last part of, you know, when they're about to leave you, and you start to pour your heart out, like, I'm trying to show you that I love you, and please just listen. I'm not who you think I am, and all this stuff. And then they betray you, they cheat on you, and they do something really bad. And that's where that last bit of emotional field with all the nutrients in it, that's your fingerprint. And that comes out of you. And then you absorb all of their negative energy. Usually there's a big argument or something at the end when whoever decides to disengage with the other. And then they walk away with all your fuel, and you're full. It's like a pressure gradient sometimes, to some degree, I think, because their fuel's out here because they can't process it. So it's like right out here, like a cloud, and your fuel's more inside. So you got to kind of push it out. You see how when you get reactive, you push it out. And they like people that are passionate because they can push their energy out, because they're really trying to get you to understand. And when you're doing that, it's like a pressure gradient. Yours comes out because you push it out, and theirs is already out here, and it goes whoop. As you push it out, it goes into them. But it also is through consent. When you're spiritually and mentally consenting to it, it will happen as well. But it happens easier when you're even passionate about it. It's the passion and the consent and the motion of the pushing it out, and it switches. And then they go off, and that's why they tell everybody that you're doing to them what they have been doing to you, and that their character is now your character, and your character is now their character. And they'll smear you to death. And people will start to believe it because now you're wearing also that energy, and you look like it. And they're wearing your energy, and your energy is truth. And they don't look like it. They look real peaceful, and they look like Mother Teresa or Father Teresa. And then they can wear it for a time, and then they're burning down the world with your energy, and you got to pay for the negative reaping of what you gave them that they're destroying other people with, which is your energy. And then you also have to pay for all of the negative reaping that comes with the negative energy that you agreed to take, which is theirs, that you now have to burn off and heal up from, which is now you're going to go out to the bank at a store, and you may pop off at people because you're wearing their energy. It's not really you. You can get in fights, arguments, you can say and do things that you wouldn't normally do and lose your job or whatever, because you're wearing their negative energy, and you're wearing the emotional field and embodiment of them. So you're more anxious, more depressed, you're more paranoid. When you look at yourself in the mirror, you don't have the same look and the same vitality. You don't have the same amount of love. You're frustrated. And if they have addictions, a lot of times they quit addictions during this period of time. And I personally believe because it's probably housed in your emotional field, a lot of it. So now you can actually, possibly, it's my theory, that you can actually have addictions that make you feeling annoyed. Now, you wouldn't know what you would be addicted to because you're wearing their fuel, but you're pissed off and annoyed a lot of times. And then you're going through the betrayal that they left you with. So it's like a tenfold whammy, and you got to pay for the energy you accepted and the energy that you gave up. But that's a little bit how they steal your emotional identity, your identity theft in the spirit realm, in the emotional field, and in the metaphysical. And if they do try to steal identity theft in the 3D, meaning your money and stuff like that, well, it's going to be best if they're wearing your energy as well. And they will do that to forge your name on documents and impersonate you or whatever. And sometimes if they're rooted to another narcissist, like say they have another relationship with another narcissist, and that other narcissist sent this lower end narcissist to you because they want your energy and they know what your energy is. Well, then they're going to do it better wearing your energy. So give me a like, subscription, or a thumbs up. Love you all. Until next time. Peace. So,